This week's episode is sponsored by Squarespace. If you're ready to grow your business, check out squarespace.com/Rollins. Good organizations aren't beholden to great players. They are beholden to building great teams. Coming off an epic Super Bowl run that ended in devastating fashion, the 49ers had to regroup, retool, and revamp their roster to make an even stronger push in 2020. Some teams who get a taste of that tantalizingly delicious success will handicap themselves by trying to recreate that exact success from the past. Defensive tackle DeForest Buckner, who was drafted 7th overall in 2016, watched John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan rebuild a roster around him from the ground up. Buckner was the constant, from the lowest of lows to the highest of highs, until this offseason when he was traded to the Colts for the 13th overall pick. Buckner is an explosive athlete with impressive size, speed, and versatility. He seamlessly shifts between D-tackle and D-end, and he anchored a 49ers defensive line that finished with the second highest QB pressure rate and third highest sack rate in the NFL. But with a pending $12 million cap hit, the 49ers saw an opportunity to save money, take a risk, and evolve. With that pick they acquired from the Colts, they drafted South Carolina defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw. Economically and from a team-building standpoint, it makes sense to swap Buckner for Kinlaw. But how does it fit with the 49ers scheme and philosophy, and what type of skill set does Kinlaw actually bring to the table? Well, for starters, he is a massive human being. His 320-pound frame has 30 on Buckner, but it's his athleticism at that size that truly sets him apart. Kinlaw has rare explosive athletic traits for a player that big. His versatility allows him to line up as a 0, 1, 2, or 3 technique, making him brutal to game plan for. And I'd be surprised to see his raw power outmatched by anybody one-on-one. This past season, his 22% QB pressure rate was the 7th highest in the nation, as a defensive tackle mind you, and whether he's 1 or 2 gapping in the run game, he will cause unmitigated destruction up and down the defensive line. He's most underrated as a pass rusher. Plenty of scouting reports describe him as just a bull rusher, but when you really study him on film, his technical ability to fluidly string together moves jumps off the screen. This rep right here against Tennessee, I think illustrates that better than any other play Kinlaw made all year. On 3rd and 9, South Carolina positioned 6 up close to the line, so Tennessee matches with 6 blockers. The defense wants to overload blitz the right side of the protection by bringing 4 against 3, which causes the offense to check to 3 jet. 3 jet is a half slide protection, where 3 linemen will slide to the right to pick up pressure, while the backside man blocks. You can see the QB giving the running back a run call when the pressure shows, which tells him to go right and help the sliding lineman pick up the extra rusher. Kinlaw sees and understands all of this happening. He knows the center Brandon Kennedy is sliding his way to account for the blitz. In theory, the offense wants a hat on a hat, and that's what they get. But they also get Kinlaw one-on-one. He uses what's called a Longstick technique, where he slants over multiple gaps, which is shocking for anybody his size. Kennedy is just as shocked. Since the line is sliding, he's trying to quickly gain ground to his right to cover Kinlaw, who started 2 gaps over, which plays perfectly into the long stick technique. Kinlaw uses a stab, club, rip move. He uses the stab to quickly make contact with Kennedy sliding towards him, then finishes with the club and rip. The key to executing a stab to set up a second move is to attack with the inside arm, Kinlaw's left, so the outside arm, hips and shoulders stays free to swivel around the lineman. If Kinlaw was slanting just 1 gap over, which is really what Kennedy's expecting, he'd use his right arm and club with his left. The long stick takes time to develop and gives Kennedy a brief moment to take control of Kinlaw's pads to slow him down, so the stab move is used to maintain distance between the two. Kinlaw springs out of his stance directly at Kennedy, who has to prepare himself for a power bull rush. You can see his weight slightly drop to anchor down and brace for the power move. Kinlaw's feet are staggered at contact with his outside leg in front at the exact moment the stab connects. This allows him to drive that inside leg through his body as he resets his hips directly at the quarterback while clubbing the absolute hell out of Kennedy's back. The final part of the move, the rip, accounts for Kennedy's last dying wish of holding the block. With that arm dangling out, Kinlaw rips under his arm and swipes straight up. This move is grade A deadly. The stab pushes Kennedy backwards, the club pushes him forwards, and the rip sends him home. It is 110% not normal for a 320-pound dude to move like this. If you're not sliding protection his way and doubling him every play, you're asking for serious trouble. Now, that's not to say he's a finished product, not by any means. One of the areas he can improve, and he's received criticism for this, is his inconsistent hand placement. At times, he struggles to properly position his hands on the lineman's frame, which can lead to mistakes and missed opportunities. Here he's lined up in a wide 3 technique. When a pass rusher is using a move to attack the quarterback, he has 2 options. He can use a power move, like a bull rush, with a path straight at the lineman, or a speed move, which is towards a gap. Kinlaw uses a speed chop rip stab. He attacks the gap to widen out the guard, Gage Cervenka, and based on tendencies throughout the game, knows that Cervenka likes to quickly shoot at his arm at the snap. Kinlaw's first move is a chop, where he tries to chop straight downwards on that arm to knock Cervenka off balance and create a soft edge, but the chop completely misses the target and gives Cervenka direct access to his pads. Once that happens, Kinlaw uses his bend, which is actually pretty damn good for his size, and tries to rip straight upwards to break Cervenka's hold. The rip helps create a little bit of space, and look at how he flips his hips back towards the quarterback. This squares his entire body. Then he uses an impromptu stab move to bench press Cervenka backwards. This stab could be even more effective if he positioned it on the number towards the shoulder pad and attacked the outer half or half man instead of the base of Cervenka's body. Missing that initial chop move ends up just being the difference in Trevor Lawrence getting the throw off and picking up the first down. But what's impressive is Kinlaw's natural ability and instincts to combo moves together while reacting late in the down. Pass rushing isn't just about your individual specific moves, it's about setting up offensive linemen not only during the play, but during the game. Even though Kinlaw didn't win the rep on the previous play, he still used it to his advantage. 2 plays later, he's once again lined up in the same spot across from Cervenka. Kinlaw releases off the line with the speed rush aimed at the B gap, which looks dead on like the previous play. But he actually uses a completely different move, one of his go-tos, the club rip. He wants Cervenka to think he's attacking outside again, and by pressing upfield till the very last moment, he moves Cervenka to create extra space inside. Kinlaw uses a counter step to press that gap. A counter step is used to attack outside, then go back in. He uses that counter step to threaten Cervenka and force him to lean out. This makes him shoot his other arm, that left arm, in reaction to the counter step, which plays perfectly into Kinlaw's plan. He clubs the shoulder with his right and rips through with his left. And look at how he uses the foot he counter-stepped with to drive all the way through his body and reposition his hips. Cervenka grabs on for dear life and gets away with a pretty obvious hold, and every NFL executive tanking for Trevor Lawrence applauds him for doing so. Kinlaw can really do it all as a pass rusher, and fits well within the 49ers' spread out wide 9 defensive front. Typically, a player with enormous size would have difficulty operating in the larger spaces the 49ers scheme creates. But Kinlaw is lightning quick and agile enough to buck that trend. He can be both the penetrator and the looper on stunts, which the 49ers love to use, and he absolutely bursts off the line when slanting to the next gap over. But how do those strengths translate to the run game, an area where last year, the 49ers line actually could have used some help? They finished a merely average 13th overall in Football Outsiders adjusted line yards against, and 14th in stuffing the run behind the line of scrimmage. Buckner was often the one taking on double teams and eating up space. So can Kinlaw fill that role? Yeah. A perfect example of him absolutely gobbling up double teams showed up against Georgia. Their offense is running a pretty standard inside zone concept from shotgun, and if you want to know more about inside and outside zone runs, check out last week's Todd Gurley episode in the description box, which goes really in depth on those concepts. Anyways, inside zone relies on double team blocks, which transition to second level linebackers. If you have defensive linemen who can eat those double teams, the linebackers can run free to hunt down the ball carrier. Georgia has what's called a single block on Kinlaw and a B block on the other defensive tackle, Zach Pickens. Both tackles have a linebacker behind them that they have to keep clean. When defensive tackles get doubled, they use what some coaches call a knee down technique. Watch how they both swivel their hips, flip their shoulders, and spike a knee into the ground. You want to choose one offensive lineman to hit, then create a smaller surface area for the other to contact. You can see the center trying to drive Kinlaw backwards, but the inwards momentum the knee down generates rotates him into the gap. Explode, turn, get low, reduce your blocking surface from horizontal to vertical, and create a smaller target to attack. One lineman from each of the doubles wants to fire off and block a linebacker. Kinlaw holds both blockers, but Pickens can't. This allows TJ Brunson to run free without a blocker in his face, and even though South Carolina doesn't set a hard edge, Brunson can still chase down the running back. With Kinlaw consistently holding these double teams in an already spaced out defensive front, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, and whoever else can fly through the line of scrimmage and plug up every open gap. When Kinlaw commands this extra attention, that means Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, and the rest of the crew are getting one-on-one matchups, which spells doom for the rest of the NFC. Back to the Clemson game, which was probably Kinlaw's most versatile and dominant performance, we can see just how important these double teams are. It's first and goal with the offense on the 3-yard line. South Carolina does manage to put together a goal line stand and keeps them out of the end zone, but to get 3 goal line stops in a row, each and every play, every little inch is magnified. Clemson is running inside zone, same as Georgia, and has a center guard single block on Kinlaw. Generally, when teams are in shotgun, the running back will cross the quarterback's face on a handoff instead of running to the same side. Kinlaw knows this and lines up opposite to the back in the weak side A-gap. Since there are only 3 yards to the end zone, Kinlaw needs to use the knee down technique to hold the double team and keep the second level clean. Clemson gets greedy, and even though doubling him initially, the left guard comes off to seal the second level. Once you've used the knee down and spiked your knee to the ground, if one of the linemen moves off you, you have to quickly pop up into the open gap. Once Kinlaw feels the guard leave and that space open back up, he immediately extends his arm, sheds the block, and stops the running back cold. The very next play on 2nd and 2, Clemson uses an almost identical formation, but flips it to the other side. They're hoping Kinlaw stays on the left side so they can run inside zone to the right. Easy enough, Kinlaw just shifts to the other side and once again lines up in the weak side A-gap. Clemson tries to use the center guard single block on him just like the play before, but they've learned from their previous mistake. This time, both linemen stay on Kinlaw and don't come off. He uses his knee down technique so both linebackers can jump through the hole, and when the running back stutters for a split second, Kinlaw muscles the lineman back into him, and the linebackers blow the whole thing up. Inside and outside zone runs will consistently be bounced out to Bosa and Armstead. Cutbacks, whether it be zone or gap, will be demolished, and all the attention on Kinlaw will create one-on-one matchups across the board. Protections will always be slid towards him, opening the door for slants, twists, stunts, and anything else the coaching staff can dream up. Niners Nation will miss the hell out of DeForest Buckner, and I wish him the very best with the Colts. And heck, he would have been the perfect mentor for the rookie. But Kinlaw gives the 49ers something they didn't have before. The team's strength is built through the defensive line, but the defensive line isn't built through strength. It's built through speed. Kinlaw provides that strength and that speed. Most any team can draft good players, but it's usually not just how well you can draft the first guy, it's betting on yourself to draft the next guy to sustain long-term success. The loss of DeForest Buckner hurts, and it stings. But let me tell you this right now. Javon Kinlaw is the next 49ers great. I want to give a huge shout out to my friends at Squarespace for sponsoring another episode. I've been using Squarespace for quite some time now, and it really is a one-stop shop for all your website needs. I purchased my domain AlexRollinsNFL.com directly from them, and they gave me so many features that have helped me make my website the best it could possibly be. I'm talking a massive variety of sharp, polished design templates, a ton of analytics data so I can track where and how people are finding my website, and the customer service is award-winning and available literally around the clock 24/7. If you have your business or side hustle and want to take it to that next level, you can head to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Rollins to save 10% off your purchase of a website or domain. That's squarespace.com/ROLLINS. Thanks again for making it to the end of the episode with me. If you have any topic requests or anything like that, or have any football questions at all, make sure to drop that in a comment down below. I appreciate each and every one of your questions and all of the support I've been getting from each and every one of you. So yeah, alright, until next Saturday, see ya.